So recently I read Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher, and I don't know really what it did to my brain, but it made me crave a good, low-stakes, cozy fantasy. And so I went to the bookstore because I was also craving some very, smutty fantasy romance because I don't know about you, but for me, the smut hasn't really been smutting, and I feel like a lot of what I've been reading this year just hasn't really hit the mark for me, to be quite honest with you. And so my objective was simple. A cozy fantasy? A smutty fantasy romance. How hard could it be? Turns out, not too hard, because I left the bookstore with a few more books than I meant to, but now that we all know why we're here, let's talk about the books that I bought, because trust me, I will not be buying any more books until after the summer, and I have read all of the books that I have been buying lately, because I do have one more trip planned for my birthday in a couple of weeks, and you know I'm going to be buying books. So hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cynthia if you're new here, and let's just get into the first book I bought. So the first book that I picked up was Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb, and this book I've seen online described as a spicy dragon shifter fantasy romance. I am not too familiar with dragon shifting romances, or really any shifter romances, to be honest with you, but I do like dragons, and I do like fantasy, and I do like romance, and so I figured we would give this one a try. But for a short summary, Dragonfall is about a powerful dragon who is resurrected into human form and sent to infiltrate the world of humans and their gods. But when he forms a forbidden bond with a mortal thief, their connection could either save or doom both worlds. And I'll be honest, this one has been on my radar for a while. I've seen it recommended quite a bit in terms of after you read the Empyrean series, any of the books, to be honest, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, or Onyx Storm, they're you should read this. So it's been on my radar for a while, and I figured I should probably just grab a copy. And I will say the reviews online are a little bit mixed for this book, but to be honest, I'm trying to be a little less influenced these days. I tend to see a few bad reviews online and then completely write a book off, and we gotta stop doing that. But let's move on to the next book. The next book I grabbed has been one that I've been eyeing for a while. It went viral not too long ago. Even my sister-in-law texted me and was like, have you read this? And that is Quicksilver by Callie, Hart. And let me tell you, I have been fighting it. I think a small part of me doesn't want to like this book. I think another small part of me thinks that I'm going to love this book. I've heard very, very mixed things about this book. It is also a very big book talk book, and I'm very, very wary of book talk books, but some of my favorite books I've read have come from book talk. So I can't fairly write this one off. But in Quicksilver, in a land where power and secrets rule, a rebellious young woman finds herself entangled with a dangerous man whose magic and motives may be more twisted than she expected. And if I'm being honest with you, hold on, this book is heavy. I have to readjust. But I did sample a few pages on the Barnes & Noble website. I think I have it downloaded on Kindle, which is kind of stupid to buy an actual copy, but I kind of wanted an actual copy. So anyway, I sampled the first chapter. And honestly, the sarcasm from the main character, right out of the gate, I was I'm sold. Even if this book is bad, even if I don't like it, I mean, that part really drew me in. And so I was you know what? I'm just going to grab a copy. And we're just going to see what happens. What's the worst? I don't like it, then I'll just sell my copy. I think of all the books on this list, this one might be the one I'm looking forward to starting the most, although I'm probably not going to be able to start it until May. So you'll probably see this on my May TBR. Okay, so I've presented you with two smutty fantasy romance books, and you're thinking, didn't she also say cozy fantasy? I did. So the next book I picked up is Greenteeth by Molly O'Neill, and in Greenteeth we meet a young woman who returns to her childhood home after the loss of a loved one, only to find herself drawn into a quiet, magical mystery rooted in the local folklore and the dangerous waters just beyond the shore. This book I've had my eye on for a couple weeks now. I originally saw it in Barnes & Noble when it published a couple of weeks ago. And so I picked it up in the store and I read a few pages and I liked it, but I wasn't completely sold. So I was let me borrow it from my library first. So I did. But as always, I'm juggling at least 4 books at one time. I'm ridiculous. And so my loan was up. I couldn't renew it because other people were waiting to borrow it. So I just returned it and I was I will come back to the story because I did get a few chapters into it and I liked what I had read. I just, like I said, I was in the middle of 4 other books and I was just I gotta prioritize. Because that's what happens. At the end of every month, I start to panic and I'm oh my God, I have a week left. I have to wrap this up. And then I really focus in on a couple of books to kind of like round out the month, and this one didn't make the list unfortunately, but I am very excited to read it. It's giving cozy fantasy, folklore vibes. I'm here for it. And the last book that I picked up a copy of is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Erriu. And this one has kind of also been on my radar for a while, if I'm being honest, but I've seen very mixed reviews about it. A lot of the readers that I follow either liked this book or disliked this book. I haven't really seen any in between. But in Heavenly Bodies, a celestial being falls to Earth and begins unraveling the stories and secrets of the people it encounters, weaving together a tapestry of longing, magic, and the unknown. And to be honest, I kind of want to just go into this one blind. I don't really want to read anything more about this book. I kind of just want to read it. Because like I said, not only am I trying to not be as like influenced by other people's opinions, I'm also trying to just do it, just read the book. You know, like obviously there's something about this book that caught my attention and made me want to read it, so I should just read it. You know? Heavenly Bodies is described as a lyrical, dreamy, and surreal fantasy, and honestly, that sounds right up my alley, so I'm hoping that I enjoy it, but you never know. There have been other books that I thought I would really like, and I didn't, so here we are. But I also did get the sprayed edge copy of the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition because they didn't have just like a regular copy, which I found kind of annoying. And like the sprayed edges are nice, but I don't care, to be quite honest with you. But I'm very excited to dive into this one either way. This one is definitely a little bit lower on my TBR list, but definitely before the end of the summer, I will be reading Heavenly Bodies. Also, a little side note, speaking of cozy fantasy, this one isn't one that I bought recently. I actually bought this when my original Barnes & Noble store closed before they moved to the new location, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Now that I have this like itch to read cozy fantasy, I feel like now is the perfect time to read this book. I saw some people recommend reading it in winter because it's set during winter, but honestly, winter has passed and I don't want to go back in time to winter. I'm very glad it is spring. But regardless, I think it is time to get this book off my TBR list and onto my read list. And so that kind of rounds out my book haul, but also my kind of like upcoming TBR list. But I have had this copy for probably almost a year now, if not a little over a year, and I think it's just time to read it. So, but all in all, I've just been really enjoying, you know, walking around bookstores and going back into bookstores and picking up books and sampling books and just the whole vibe of the bookstore. I've been enjoying it a lot. But I will say, I need to read all the books that I'm buying in this season, so I definitely think summer will be a bit of like a temporary book buying ban, just because Diego and I are doing a bookstore crawl in New York City for my birthday, and I'm very, very excited. But I do know that there are going to be a handful more of books coming out of that trip, and so I definitely need to pace myself and read what I've currently bought, as well as what I'm going to purchase, as well as books that I currently still have on my TBR, because I do know that The Moth and the Night by Rachel Gillig is publishing on my birthday, May 20th, and the week before that, A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen is publishing on the 13th, so I am very excited for those two specifically in May. So I honestly don't know how my TBR is going to go. I don't really want to like plan too heavily, but definitely after my birthday, no more bookstore trips until like the fall. But I do think that this trip was a good mix of like the kind of smuttier fantasy romance I'm looking for, as well as like the cozy fantasy. And even though I didn't purchase Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia Fairies on this trip, I did purchase it probably a little over a year ago, and like it's time to read it. Now that I have the like cozy fantasy like bug, it's time to read it. It's time to take it off the TBR and put it on the read list. But if you have read any of the books that I purchased and you would like to share your opinion with me, I would greatly appreciate it. And I know I said that I'm trying to be less influenced by other people's opinions, but I think I'm just trying to be less influenced by other people's reviews before I've even like read a book. You leaving me a comment doesn't count. It's just somehow different in my head. It's like talking to a friend, you know, like if a friend read a book that I hadn't read and they were just telling me their opinion, I'd be like, okay. I probably wouldn't be as fluent, but I'd be like, okay. But for some reason, like a stranger on Goodreads putting an 8,000 word paragraph about why they hated a book really just dissuades me, and I cannot explain why. But anyway, that's kind of all I've got. I just kind of want to stop by and chit chat about more books I bought because I'm actually buying books this year. The last few years I haven't been buying books because I got into a habit of buying books and not reading them. And while I don't think there's anything wrong with buying books for the aesthetic or because you like having, full bookshelves or you just love the appearance of books in your home, it was a problem for me because they were books that I actually wanted to read. I just wasn't. So still working on fixing that. But anyway, like I said, that's all I've got. I'm all talked out. I'm gonna go now. But how are your reading plans going? And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.